Hey everyone, my name is Jeremy McPeak for NetTuts. This is ASP.NET from Scratch Lesson 9.5. I'm calling it that because Lesson 9 looked at the default view engine for MVC2, which was the web forms view engine. It uses the angle bracket %sign syntax that has been used in ASP since really ASP began. With MVC version 3, which was released within the first couple of weeks of January 2011, there's a new view engine called Razor. And in lesson 9, I said we would look at Razor whenever it was released. It's been released, so we are going to look at it. Before we do that, though, let's take a quick look at the view engine from lesson 9. And it just uses this angle bracket %sign. So all of our markup and our code are intermixed here, and they still are going to be in Razor. It's just going to look a lot prettier instead of having this lovely angle bracket %sign all over the place. So let's download MVC version 3. We will do that by going to microsoft.com/web. So microsoft.com/web. And this is what they're calling their web platform. Everything that is web-based as far as Microsoft's development is concerned is starting to be called their web platform. So MVC, this web matrix software, which is really nice. It's a really good entry-level code editor, which we will look at not in this series, but maybe in a quick tip or something. Web Matrix, SQL Server Compact Edition, IIS Express. There's a whole lot of products that are being released as part of the web platform. So we are going to download MVC. So we are just going to click here, and we want to download ASP.NET MVC 3, and then install now. This is going to install the platform installer, which will give us just about anything that we would want to download and install as part of their web platform. And right now we are just installing MVC 3. There are different options. Nothing really here that we need to change, so we're just going to click install. Let's make sure we are out of Visual Web Developer Express, which we are. We'll accept, and then we will install. Now, I'm not going to do this on screen. I will let this install off screen, and whenever we come back, we will take a look at MVC 3. So here we are after the installation of MVC 3. You can see that it is installed, and we can choose these other things to install if we wanted to. There should be a lot more options here. Let's look at products. Here we go. So if we wanted to install any of the other products, like the compact edition of SQL Server or IIS Express, there should be PHP, yes, for Web Matrix. And at one point there was WordPress in here, but I don't see WordPress. But anyway, there are a lot of options that we can download and install using the web platform installer. And it's not just all Microsoft based. As you can see, there was PHP, there is Joomla. But for the most part, the majority of things are going to be at least Microsoft technology based. But that is not what we are looking at today. We are looking at MVC3. So let's create an MVC3 project. So we'll open up Visual Web Developer. We'll go to New Project, and we will select ASP.NET MVC3. Let's call this Razor Example, and we'll click OK. And in this window, now in the full-blown version of Visual Studio, if we choose Internet Application, then we can create a unit test project. Since this is Visual Web Developer, we cannot have multiple projects within the same solution. So this really is neither here or there. We can choose a view engine. We can use the ASPX view engine, which is the web forms view engine, or we can use Razor. We want to specify Razor, and we will just click empty. So now Visual Studio will create our project for us, and we can start adding in the code that we had with the example from lesson 9. Doing that is really easy. We just need to right click on our models folder, go to add, and then existing item. This allows us to add existing items on our file system. So we could add code files, images, whatever we wanted to, we could add that here. So let's go to our view examples folder. We'll drill down to models, and then we will add all of these files, and we can see them in our Solution Explorer now. We'll do the same thing for controllers. We will add and then existing item, and then we will add the home controller. Now we have just copied those files into our project, so we can make modifications to these files without causing any issues with the other project. We should be set. The only thing we do need to make changes to are the namespaces within these files, because these are using the namespaces of the view examples project. And really we could leave this the same. We just have to make sure that we reference the correct namespace. But just to make things a little bit easier, we're going to change view examples to razor example. And then we are going to copy this and paste it everywhere that we see view examples. And that's just in a few places. So we'll open up all of these files, paste in razor example, and then we should have everything that we need. Let's go to the Views folder, and this is where we are going to see the majority of differences with the Razor View Engine. And right off the bat, you can see that we have a new file extension. Instead of using ASPX, we have CSHTML. If you are a Visual Basic programmer, I am very sorry, but if you are a VB programmer, then this would be VB-HTML. And the idea behind it is it's an HTML page with C# code or Visual Basic code. And we'll be able to switch in and out of code and markup pretty seamlessly. So let's look at this _view start file. And this is a pretty neat little file. Any view that we create is going to look at this file for a set of default settings. Now we can override those settings within our view, but instead of listing the same settings over and over and over again, we can just set those settings here within _view start, and then all of our views are going to use those settings. So right now we have set this layout setting, and with the Razor View Engine, we don't have master pages, we have what are called layout pages. They serve the same purpose, but they just have a different name. And whenever we look at this _layout, we'll see that there is quite a bit of different syntax as far as getting in and out of code. But we have this layout setting, and we are saying that we want our views to use this _layout.cshtml file. So let's go ahead and let's look at that file. It's really nothing spectacular. It's pretty basic. The default layout page is this. I have not modified this in any way. There is a link to a CSS style sheet and jQuery, and you can see that all of these pieces of code are prepended by this ampersand, and this is how we can switch in and out of code. So we can use ampersand and then call render body, and this will render our view for us. So whenever we create a view for our index action, this render body method is actually going to render that view for us. So with this ampersand, we have essentially told the view engine that this is code here, this render body method. We can also use curly braces to represent code, but we can also put in some HTML if we want to. See, IntelliSense is showing us some HTML elements that we can put in here. So we can switch in and out of code and markup pretty seamlessly. It's very nice. It's a lot cleaner than the angle bracket % sign that we saw in lesson 9. This viewBag object is a dynamic object, and it's a lot like the view data collection in ASP, MVC2 framework, and MVC1 actually too. instead of view data, we can use this view bag, and we can assign any property here. So inside of our views, we can assign a value to this title property, and that value will be rendered inside of the title element. So whenever we create a view, we are going to be able to set this value within our view, and we can add any property here. This is a dynamic object. It's using the dynamic language runtime. So we can add anything that we want, and we can use that data whenever. So let's go ahead and let's create a view. We'll go to our home controller, and let's create a view for the index action. And it's going to look very similar to creating a view within the older view engine. We specify the view name. We want to use Razor here, so we're going to leave that there, and we want to create a strongly typed view. And then we can choose the types of data, which there should be more, but this is okay. This Razor example.models.allProducts, that's exactly what we want here, so we can leave that. This is not a partial view, so we will leave that unchecked. And here, this check mark, use a layout or master page. Now we can specify a different layout page if we wanted to, and that would override whatever is specified within underscore view start. But since we want to use that layout page, we're going to leave this blank and just simply click add. Now up at the top we have this at model. This is a lot like the inherits. In fact, let's go ahead and pull up our older project so that we can compare here. Index. This inherits whenever we are specifying a system.web.mvc.viewPage, and it's generic, so our model is actually going to be of type viewexamples.models.allProducts. Well, this is verbose, it is confusing, especially to new programmers. So they greatly simplified it in that our model is simply of this type. So whenever we use the model keyword here, model, then we are going to get the properties and methods of the all products data type. So let's go ahead and basically redo what we have here. We just have the heading of index. We also need to set the view bag, which I think is already done for us. Yes, view bag title is index. That's fine. We need a table, and then we need to loop through all of the items within the model and then render a partial. We don't have this partial view yet, but we will create that soon enough. So let's do this just without copying and pasting or anything, because we can get a better feel of how we can use Razor to our benefit. So we want a table, and then let's see what we do just to make sure. We have a heading row. I don't think we really need that, but we'll do that anyway. And then we loop through all of the items within our model. So let's use a for each loop. And to do that, we will just use an ampersand and then for each var item in model. And then it's not render partial, it is partial. There are some changes between Razor and the web forms view engine, in that instead of calling the render partial method, we actually call a method just called partial. And our partial view is going to be called product list item. And then we will pass it the item here. So let's look at the old code, and we can see that in order to get in and out of code and into markup, we have to use these angle bracket percent signs everywhere that we want to do that. That's annoying. It's a lot of typing. And here with Razor, we just have to use an ampersand and everything just works. Now, one thing you might be thinking of, well, ampersands are used within our code. Well, the Razor Review Engine is smart enough to know when an ampersand is going to specify code or something like an email address. So I can type in my email address. Yeah, WD Online. And we can see that we are not getting any IntelliSense. If we were going to run this page, it wouldn't work because we don't have this partial view yet. But this would just display as normal text because it knows that this is an email address. And it also knows that this is not code. Although we are getting a red squiggly line, it would know that it's not code. While we're here, let's go ahead and create this product list item partial view. So we'll right click on home, go to add and then view. This needs to be of type product and it is a partial view. So we'll click add. And this is pretty basic here. Once again, we have this at model, which tells the Razor View Engine that our model object is of type product. So let's look at our old project and see what this partial view does. It is just a table row with a couple of links and the product ID. So let's go ahead and copy this. And we'll paste it in because there's very little changes that we need to make. We just need to get rid of this angle bracket % equal sign. And we just need to replace it with an at sign. So we will do that. And we also need to get rid of the closing angle bracket and % of that tag. And there we have our partial view. And it's a lot easier to read and a lot easier to maintain. So let's go ahead and create the other views that we need for this particular application. So we will do this individual product action next. So we will right click, add view, and it is going to have a type product, and this is not a partial view, so we will leave everything else the same. We'll click add, and it automatically gives us this view bag. We could put a space here if we wanted, and let's put a space here as well. And let's look at the old project, see what this does. Individual project or product. And let's go ahead and copy this too because I'm not going to remember all of that. So we'll paste it in and we want model name. Actually, it would just be easier if we went to quick replace. We want angle bracket % colon replaced with ampersand. We should also put a space there, replace all, yay. Okay, and then we will get rid of the % angle bracket and replace that. And I believe we are done with this view. So let's create the other view, this list products of type. Add view. This is an enumerable of products. So let's go ahead and let's see if this will work here. Enumerable. This is not a partial view, so we'll click add. And should have taken all that out, but that's okay. That's easily fixed. There we go. And then list products of type. Let's go ahead and put spaces there. And let's see what this did. I think it does what the index does, but we will just make sure. And we have a table. Yes, it is the exact same as index, so we can just copy and paste what we already have for index. So, products of type. And that should do it. I believe we have all of our views. We have our single partial view. And so let's go ahead, press F5 to run this, and see what we get here. We get an exception. The route individual product cannot be found in the route collection. Name. Okay. Did we add the routes to global.asax? No, we did not. Yes. Our application will not work without those routes. So, thankfully, we can just copy and paste those. So let's copy. And we'll paste those in. And then we will run this again. So it worked, but we didn't get our data. We got everything else, but we didn't get our data. Well, what's the use then? So our controller is working, otherwise we would get an error. We wouldn't get the index view because that's where that's coming from. So we need to look at our view. And like the ASPX view engine, we can go into our views while we are running our application and make changes. Of course, we can't do that with the pure C# code because that is compiled. But the CS HTML files, we can go in, we can make modifications to, and everything would be fine because those pages are executed whenever they are requested. So let's put a breakpoint here because we want to see what is going on as our view is being built. So let's go back to the browser, we'll refresh the page, and then we'll hit this breakpoint. So I'm going to press the F11 key. This will step into this called a partial, and this should take us to our partial view, and we can see it being built line by line. We can also look at the data that is within our model object, and we can see here that ID is 1, name is computer, and type is electronics. So our data is getting here just fine. If we go through each line, let's go through the next iteration, and Blu-ray player, electronics, and ID2, everything looks fine. So let's go ahead and remove that breakpoint. We'll continue through. Why is this not working? Oh, it's because I did not put an ampersand. Well, there's your problem. The partial method returns data. It returns data of type MVC HTML string. And when this ampersand is not there, this is just executing that method. It's not doing anything with that returned data. So by prepending with an ampersand, we're basically saying that the data returned by this partial method is being added to the view. So that is a very important thing to overlook on my part, and I apologize. But now that we save that, let's go back to the browser, refresh, and we should see our data. There we go. So since we copied this into list products of type, we need to make that change there, and then everything should work fine. So let's click on computer. We should get the details for this particular product. We do. Computer, ID of 1, product type electronics. Let's look at JavaScript 24-hour trainer. Everything looks great there. Let's look at guitar. Everything looks great. If we click on one of these categories or product types, then we should get the products of that type. So there we have it. We have basically rebuilt the application from lesson 9, but this time we have used the Razor View Engine. And in doing so, we've made our code a whole lot cleaner as far as our views are concerned. They are much cleaner, they are easier to read, easier to maintain, and we just don't have a whole lot of the bloat that we had within the previous project. There's not a whole lot of differences between the two view engines as far as concepts are concerned. We can build the same views, we can build the same partial views, but we do so with a different syntax, and I'll say a better syntax. So that is the Razor view engine, and I will see you next time.